Well, hello again, and further to yesterday's video, or the day before's video, the UFO leak of the century, which of course is no such thing. I honestly can't understand how anybody reading that document could consider that the UFO leak of the century, or even a UFO leak, to be perfectly honest. Now, Professor Fairs left me a comment saying that Stephen Greer had been talking about Admiral Wilson, for some time ago. I'd never heard about this before, so I just put into the Google search Stephen Greer and Admiral Wilson to see what I could find. Now, this is an article from something called Devoid from August the 6th, 2008, some time ago, by someone called Billy Cox. Admiral, this is Admiral Wilson here, never looked for UFO data. So let's just have a bit of a... There's only a couple of paragraphs in here that are really worth looking at. Here we go. So this is back in 2008, remember, and this is about Admiral Wilson. Now an executive with a Minnesota-based defence contractor. I'm reading this through the camera viewfinder again, so it might sound a bit strange, sorry about that. Wilson told Devoid he accepted Mitchell's 1997 request because he was a former astronaut and maybe had more credibility than some person off the street. So presumably he's talking about Greer there, because Stephen Greer, Edgar Mitchell, another guy, met this fellow at the Pentagon back in 1997 to discuss this business, this UFO business. Wilson says he doesn't remember who else attended that meeting, but he admitted a certain amount of curiosity about allegations of deep black UFO projects. So what the Admiral says is, what is true is that I met with them. Wilson said in a phone interview, what is not true is that I was denied access to this material because I didn't pursue it. I may have left it open with them, but it was not especially compelling, not compelling enough to waste my staff's time to go looking for it. Mitchell told Devoid he never heard directly from Wilson after their initial meeting, but he says he trusts the veracity of the unnamed sources who told him of Wilson's inability to penetrate security. To be honest, I've really... Edgar Mitchell, of course, has got a pretty heavy bias. He's a keen UFO guy. UFO and ET chap, Edgar Mitchell. I don't think he's with us anymore, is he, Edgar Mitchell? Greer, of course, well, yeah. What can I say? So what was he doing at the time? He's a retired high-ranking military intelligence official. So when he went to the... okay. So Wilson... Where is it? Wilson, the former director of the Defence Intelligence Agency, so he got his promotion then, because I think he was assistant director, wasn't he, in 2002 when he spoke to the CEO of his garden shed warp drive company. Director of Defence Intelligence Agency was head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1997 when he agreed to meet at the Pentagon with advocates of UFO declassification. Among them, he confirms, was Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell. Oh, okay. He doesn't mention the other people. So if he was at that time in 1997, he was the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1997, he's going to know all about this if it actually exists. And He's curious to see what they've got to say, and then he said he wouldn't waste his staff's time looking for it. So it's not there, it's not real, it doesn't exist, it's all nonsense. And the alien artifact that Richard Dolan mentioned, I had a bit of a look at that. I'm going to do a video on that because I found some information about that, and apparently the To the Stars Academy have got this unusual bismuth and some other material in these really thin layers, thinner than a human hair. And people have looked into it and found that it's actually industrial waste. It's created by an industrial process for purifying lead, I think it is, something like that, where you get these layers of bismuth. They pour molten magnesium over it or something, and it lifts the bismuth out of the lead to purify it. It's nothing whatsoever to do with alien technology. Of course, the TTSA won't let independent investigators analyse this stuff. It's all secret, it's all hush-hush, it's all done in-house. So you have to rely on what they tell you. So they're passing off unusual-looking... Apparently they're passing off, unusual-looking bits and bobs of industrial waste as alien artefacts. Sounds far more realistic than them actually being alien artifacts, doesn't it, really? Because, as I've said before, alien technology is going to be really quite good. They're not going to fly around over our heads with bits falling off of their spacecraft. When was the last time a bit fell off your car? They're not going to crash, because the technology is just going to be unimaginable. It's the redundant system, self-healing, they're not going to crash. And the other thing, too, to consider is that, these people are saying these are unusual metals, they're unusual alloys. Well, apparently that turns out not to be the case, but regardless, what makes anybody think, what makes people think that an alien interstellar spacecraft would be made of any kind of metal? I think they will be made of materials that would be beyond our imagination. The technology will be beyond our imagination. The materials will be beyond our imagination. They're going to be exotic, synthetic, low-mass materials. You probably find there wouldn't be any metal in an alien interstellar spacecraft. They're not sort of sheets of aluminium riveted together. It's just absolute twaddle, and unfortunately, all this stuff it's perpetuated because, as I've said before, it's a business. People want you to go and buy these DVDs and buy the books and go to these presentations. Where they can stand on the lectern and give their lectures about all this alien technology, and of course, none of this is real. It's a great shame. Well, is it or isn't it? I mean, if aliens were really here, would that be a good thing? What would they be doing here? I think I saw one of Ben Jones's favourite scientists, Brian Cox, on a panel with some people talking about it, and they were saying, well, if they're really here, what are they doing here? Is it military reconnaissance? Is it scientific study? Is it tourism? Because if you've got a species or several species that can travel around the galaxy on a willy-nilly basis, you might find that some of the unexplained UFOs are actually the equivalent of an alien school bus. Well, they didn't say this. This is my. They said that the three things. Is it tourism? Is it this, that, and the other? But I thought, well, it could be a school bus. They could be saying, that so many millennia ago, this is how we used to live, kids. This was what our technology was like. This is how bad our atmosphere was. People used to actually burn hydrocarbon fuels and, all this sort of, and fly around in rockets, And take a look at these satellites, this tin box with a knitting needle sticking out of it. That's what our space, communication systems used to look like. The orbital systems used to look like. A very, very long time ago. Of course, they wouldn't use words like millennia, probably. They'd say so many thargs ago, 40,000 thargs ago, children, this is how we lived. Maybe it is something like that. But anyway, I think that's about all. This is only a short one, this one. But I just thought that as Professor Fez had left that comment, and I'd never heard of Admiral Wilson, to be honest, And he said that Stephen Greer had been mentioning this Admiral Wilson for a long time. I just have a look at it. And the Admiral never looked for UFO data. An article from 2008. So there you go. He wouldn't waste his staff's time with it. He was curious to see what they had to say. He only gave them the time of day in the first place because Edgar Mitchell, an ex-Apollo astronaut, was one of the people. So Stephen Greer on his own wouldn't have got a look in. He said that he didn't find what they had to say compelling. He certainly wouldn't waste his staff's time on it. And his senior position as the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1977, when he met these people, he is going to know. The head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's every service, isn't it? You know, so if there's anything like that going on, he is going to have full knowledge of it. Admiral never looked for UFO data. So put a line through this UFO leak of the century. It's just the UFO community talking it up because nothing is really happening in the UFO world. They're saying that this is all ramping up. Well, I don't see any evidence of that. If you do, perhaps you could leave a comment below with some links, and I'll take a look at it. But I'm certainly not aware of anything ramping up with regard UFOs or ET, and I still haven't seen anything that would convince me this is going on. I still haven't seen any evidence that this is going on. If you think you have, again, perhaps you could leave a link below and I'll take a look at it. As always, many thanks for watching, and yes, I will do a video on these alien artifacts that Richard Dolan was talking about. Sadly, more nonsense to just talk up the UFO scene, you know, make it give the impression that it's something real, there's something going on. But you know, when you actually look into it, sort of 15 minutes worth of googling will show you what these artifacts are all about. Yes, I was a little dismayed when I found that it involved the TTSA and some of the people that were involved with it because of their previous track record. Alrighty, well, as always, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.